few months ago, in the year that shan't be named, I posted a TikTok about my opinions about the highly anticipated third installment of the latest adaptation of the Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man 3. As of January 15th, the time I'm filming this, the title has not been revealed to the public yet. There have been a lot of rumors and theories circulating about the film, a lot of them having to do with this idea of a Spider-Verse that will essentially bring in the two previous actors that have taken on the role of Peter Parker, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Basically, all I said in my video was how ridiculous of a concept I think this is, because we've already watched Tom Holland's Peter Parker be aided by two different mentor figures, Tony Stark and Quentin Beck, who, yes, I understand turned out to be the villain, but he served the same purpose for the majority of the film. I just think this third film, usually a superhero's last standalone film, is the perfect opportunity to watch him take on an antagonist by himself. Although I had an overwhelming amount of people agree with me, I also had some naysayers who were just excited for the alleged team up between the Spider-Men, which is fine, but I also had some people just accuse me of being a Tom Holland fan because I think he's cute. Which is sexist within itself, but we don't have time for that. Just a general note, boys, stop accusing girls of only liking Marvel movies or superhero movies in general because you think we only like the attractive male actors. The people who accuse me of being guilty of this are the same people who only watch the Transformer movies because Megan Fox was in them. But I won't go there. Since uploading the video and kind of having it pop off, I realized that I sound way more mad than I actually am. Regardless of what the plot of the movie turns out to be, I know my ass is gonna be buying a ticket, popcorn, Crunch Bunches, and a root beer, and sit in front row at the movies. Well, not front row, because that's the worst seat in the house. I also realized that this theory caused a lot of debate about who people think the best Spider-Man is. I've heard a lot of people say that Tobey Maguire was a great Spider-Man, but not a great Peter Parker, whereas Tom Holland makes a great Peter Parker, but not the best Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield's interpretation just kind of exists. Personally, I thoroughly enjoy Tom Holland's take on the role and think that this was the best casting since Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Iron Man. Granted, I haven't seen Tobey Maguire's movies since they came out in the early 2000s, and the Andrew Garfield movies I never cared to watch. Nothing against Andrew Garfield, I just figured since they didn't even give him a third film, they probably weren't that good. And I didn't watch Tom Holland's movies because I was like,
wow, such cute boy. I have no brain cell or thought in my female head. Must go see attractive man do flips in onesie.
I only watched them because they were intertwined in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I had already started watching back in 2014, because Guardians of the Galaxy was the first movie I saw of the 23 films. So I figured if I'm going to answer this question, I have to give each of them a fair shot and watch every Spider-Man movie ever made. Except for Into the Spider-Verse, because Miles Morales is a cartoon and he would win. He wins by a landslide. So I started it where it all began, with Tobey Maguire in 2002. And here's my rubric, so you know I didn't just sit there and gawk at the pretty faces on the screen. Out of costume look, in costume look, character qualities and acting choices, overall enjoyment, and accuracy to the comics. Maguire's out of costume look as Peter Parker was fine. Brown hair, nerdy, nothing too exciting. If this exterior didn't immediately give away what trope he was, the amount of times he's shoved by the bullies in the first 10 minutes of the movie will. Maguire's look as Spider-Man is textbook. Or should I say, comic book. Yeah, you're right, I'll see myself out. It's by far my favorite Spider-Man look of the three of them. Even though I was underwhelmed from the start, his character qualities and acting choices are where it really fell flat for me. But most people who've read the comics, say that he totally nails it as Peter Parker, so hey, what do I know? In fact, let's hear from one of those people right now. I feel like a big part of this debate heavily has to do with people who've read the comics. You know, I feel like that has like a big part in the debate, and since I've never read them, I figured that I should turn to an expert. So that's where you come in all of this. So for you, just like right off the bat, if you had to pick your favorite Peter Parker, who would be your favorite for either.
If we're going to go the comic accurate route, if we're going to say who's most comic accurate, the original appearance of Spider-Man as Peter Parker before he got bit by the spider was a real bookworm. That's what they called him, bookworm. He was a nerd, big nerd, super socially awkward, doesn't really know how to talk to people. That is Tobey Maguire, the way I see it. I think he did that better than anyone else did. And he plays the character a little weird, and that's kind of what Spider-Man is. He's an average guy, but he's not a jock, and he's not a cool guy. He's just kind of a science nerd.
Yeah. On a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the most accurate, 1 being the least, how accurate is his portrayal to the comics?
3.
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
Moving on to Andrew Garfield's masterpiece, The Amazing Spider-Man. Okay, that's a stretch. It wasn't a masterpiece, but it was entertaining. Now, Garfield's portrayal was completely different, for better or for worse. His Peter Parker was angsty and cool, not so much a nerd who plays Dungeons and Dragons after school, but a loner who would probably deal to the rich kids if it were a different movie. Physically, he's the cookie-cutter Peter Parker. Wardrobe-wise, he was giving me a lot of Jughead Jones vibes. His Spider-Man was a lot wittier and a lot more confident, and sometimes a little cocky and obnoxious for my taste.
Hey, my name is Spider-Man. You can call me Webhead, you can call me Amazing, just don't call me late for dinner, you get it?
Being that I think Garfield is the best actor out of the three of them, I thought his character qualities and acting choices were great, but a lot of comic book readers disagree.
Andrew Garfield, I don't like his Peter Parker because he's too cool, right?
Right.
But like his Spider-Man, he's so comfortable in the costume, and he has so much confidence, and his jokes are way funnier. Like Tobey Maguire, he seems a little stiff in the costume, and he makes jokes, but it almost seems a little ingenuine. But when Andrew Garfield does it, it's like you can tell he's having fun. Spider-Man is a reflection of what Peter Parker wants to be when he comes out of his shell. It's that confidence that he has inside him, but we never really see it. And now the issue I had with Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker was that he already kind of was displaying that confidence and that sort of courage to be able to stand up for people. Like, I don't think that's something Spider-Man should get until he becomes Spider-Man.
Yeah. Now Andrew's accuracy to comics.
Accuracy to comics. Andrew's accuracy to comics is, I'm going to say 3 again.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. Tom Holland. Holland's Peter Parker has the same socially awkward nerdiness as Maguire's, with better costumes and more energy. His suit, or should I say suits, are a little lackluster for me. Although they possess all the cool features and upgrades thanks to Tony, the actual look of them aren't as exciting as the original style Maguire wears, except for his Iron Spider suit. That one is dope. That being said, his Spider-Man is smart and funny like Garfield's without being too presumptuous. He still has some teen angst though, because for the majority of his first film, he does what 15-year-old boys do best: rebel against their father figures. In my opinion, he's the perfect combination of Maguire and Garfield, but at the same time gives the role his own quirks and charm. And spoiler alert, Nikki pretty much agrees with me.
And then we have Tom Holland.
Okay.
Who I think is a good balance of both. He's my favorite young Spider-Man.
Right.
He hasn't quite juggled with, I think, what the responsibility of being an adult is yet. Like, he's still very juvenile, and I don't know if he's really become like an adult Spider-Man. And I don't think we've seen that in him yet, and that's something that in the other two Spider-Man we do see. And maybe we will eventually, because from what I've heard, he's got a lot more movies that are coming. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Accuracy to comics for Tom Holland.
He gets, I'm teetering between a 3 and a 4 here.
We can call it a 3.5. I have decimals.
Let's say, oh, that's good then. Let's say 3.5.
So after taking Nikki's scores into consideration and crunching the numbers, I was able to determine who the best Spider-Man is. On paper. In reality, whether you like Tom's performance or are one of those people who wish Tobey would make a return to the screen, We're never going to get the perfect Spider-Man. There can be things we enjoy about all their performances and future portrayals as well. In other words, they can all be good in their own way, just like any reboot, remake, or adaptation. Except The Incredible Hulk. You're wrong if you like that movie. I just think it's about time we stop pitting actors against each other and put this debate to rest. But off the record, the best Spider-Man is absolutely, without a doubt, Tom just get his own film?